Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Cook County Board of Commissioners today, Tuesday, May 28th. And if we'll stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as we get started this morning, are there any adjustments or additions to the agenda? Any additions or changes to today's agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support to approve today's agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go on now to our public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to appear before the county board, an opportunity for 5 minutes of dialogue. And so we'd like at this point, I see we have one citizen already at our public comment area. So if you'd introduce yourself and please sign in.
Hi, I'm Kathryn Dry, and I'm here to report on a closed meeting that was done in the board's name on May 23rd. It was held at Great Expectations, and it had the principal from Great Expectations, their environmental teacher, Sarah Waddle, Ann Sullivan, and some 3 volunteers. I asked this board that you put the county, the public orchard on your agenda for next week or soon, or whenever is possible in the near future. I think there are many issues to discuss. The upshot of this closed meeting was that all decisions, this is the proposal anyhow, was that all decisions, big decisions, go through the extension, and all coordination for the public orchard, for which I gave the trees, go through Sarah Waddle, who will be gone, I guess, for months due to maternity leave, and that volunteers continue doing the work. Sarah cited an old grant that was done before, and said that the purpose was to educate students and feed the public. I don't think that's what was done at all in the grant that was under Diane Booth. I also got a grant 3 years ago in which we changed things, and we're focusing with primarily volunteers and also educating the public and improving the orchard itself with various proposals. We did most of the work that was under that grant, and we did it all as volunteers. Now the proposal seems to be to coordinate among 4 schools with their classes, so their outdoor classes and their meal programs. I don't think that this is a public orchard anymore. Then it's run by paid people from the schools and maybe some people and from the county. So that was not my intention when I gave the trees originally. The original intent was to have a public orchard in which the public go in and work and the public pick the apples. The models, there are 3 models that I can describe. One was in which the county had management, this was under Diane Booth, in which the county had control and management decision makings, and they controlled the work. They did the work. Diane did the work, and she paid other people to do the work. The second model, which we adopted when it became clear that Sarah Waddle was not going to do very much work at all, if any, that we would manage it and do the work by volunteers. Now the model seems to be that the county manages and has control, and the volunteers do the work. I don't think this is a workable model. You have to have, when you have volunteers, you have to be flexible, and you have to reward the volunteers in some way. If the volunteers are now working to support the schools, and the schools pick the apples and the fruits and all, and then they get state credits by having students outside in the in the classrooms outdoors and all of that, and what's the motivation for volunteers? So anyhow, I was asked at the meeting, which Ann will, I'm sure, described, I was asked to bring in, to redo the map and to bring in the list of volunteers that we have and to bring in the list of all the activities that we plan every year, by the month, by the season, et cetera. And I thought that was a good idea, but in thinking about it, I can't see why. If we, the turning point for me was as we walked to the orchard, and I asked everybody except for Sarah Waddle and Ann if they would like, the people from the school and all, if they would like to have a work class or a work session next week. Everyone to a person said no, that they didn't have time. So who's going to do the work? That's my question. So if I can't get a work day, and if I have to ask Sarah Waddle if I can have a work day and schedule it, that's not going to work. You need flexibility. You need to reward your volunteers. It has to be done in a cooperative way. This is heavy-handed and not appealing at all to volunteerism. What needs to happen now at the orchard? It's summer. The trees need to be watered. Some of it, we need to get a new big hose. We need to do some tree surgery on some of the trees that have grown into a wire. We need to weed the berries because otherwise they're going to degrade. We have to support one row of trees. We have to check the trees for disease. We have to plan the work and the watering. We have to find out why the plums aren't producing any fruit. We need to see if we need to or want to replace any trees and buy them now, because you can't buy them when you need them. You have to buy them about a year ahead. We need to buy the rootstock, because that's what we've done in the past, is we teach the kids how to do grafting. And if there's any financial involvement, who's going to pay for all of this? Do we get a grant? So this is summer. Sarah Waddle is going to be gone. She talks about coming back in the fall. What is going to happen? I think this needs to be on the agenda to be discussed by the entire board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there other members of the public who wish to speak today? Any other members of the public? Are there any comments that have been received by commissioners? All right.
Commissioner Sullivan, I did have a contact with a constituent who praised Tim Nelson and the community, the value of the recycling center, but was very dismayed by the appearance and the that it looks very ill kept. It's very messy, and then his statement, and I don't even know if this is true, but you're here, Tim, that over by the oil, that it looks very environmentally questionable. So I just was passing that along.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll move on with our consent agenda. I do want to note that there is a correction to the minutes. The vote that was on the sheriff's investigator position was a 4-to-1 vote. So I would just want to make sure that everyone is aware that that correction has been made. And so with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Commissioner Hawkins.
I would just also point out that in that one paragraph, it referred to me as Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Hawkins in the same paragraph, which I totally understand. I get confused myself. What is my name? So, but I just want to point out that probably should be corrected to say Johnson.
All right. Thank you. So given the corrections, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Also move.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner White. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on at this point in time to our MIS department, and we have the abandonment of Gunflint Lake, the NOAA station, which is our National Weather Service station. And good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission. Okay, so I'll just jump right in. So Sorry, I have to find myself here. All right, a little bit of background, and then we'll jump into what we're doing right now. So following the blowdown in 1999, then Sheriff Wirt decided that it would be a pretty good idea for people in the Boundary Waters to have a little bit more advance notice if something was coming at them. And so he worked with the National Weather Service out of Duluth to develop a station that would be located on the tower at Gunflint Lake. At that point, the National Weather Service decided, or they were opposed to the idea, and they said it wasn't mission critical because there wasn't enough of a population center or a reason to have a National Weather Station at that location. Sheriff Wirt said, I don't care. For those of you who knew Sheriff Wirt, that checks out. And he said, we're going to do it anyway. And the National Weather Service was willing to work with him and create a cooperative agreement where the county would own and operate the station, and the National Weather Service would provide the information, the link, and would help with the license and such like that. So, fast forward. Over the years, Rowan Watkins and myself have been the two people in the radio position that have been, and Dwayne Aggie too, have been the people who have been charged with taking care of this station. The station uses very specific equipment that only the National Weather Service uses that we can't get unless we go through the National Weather Service, which has been a problem in the past. There are stories, I haven't had to deal with this directly, but there are stories of when something breaks up there, having our person drive down to Duluth to beg extra pieces off of the National Weather Service because we can't order it, because it's limited to National Weather Service only. So there are operational problems with this arrangement. However, it accomplished the goal. We got a National Weather Station up there, and it covers the end of the trail quite well. It covers into the Boundary Waters reasonably well. And when I started my position a couple years ago, I realized this is silly. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. And so I reached out to the National Weather Service and said, we don't want this anymore. Do you want it? And they said, yeah, this is mission critical. And so they said, yeah, we'll take it over from you. And so for the last couple of years, I've been working on the paperwork and what the process would look like to have us officially abandon it directly into their care. That's the key, is that we want to still have this station function, and I also want it to be on their radar so that they prioritize it.
Pun intended, right?
There you go. Ha ha ha. Although radar is a different thing. We can talk about that later. So where we are right now is that the National Weather Service has agreed to assume operation, to keep it on their list of licensed stations, and they're even working on doing some improvements. So currently, the way that the National Weather Service information gets to the Gunflint station is by a dedicated phone line from the Bogus Tower that runs all the way up the Gunflint, and it is liable to fail, as phone lines up the Gunflint sometimes are. And so they're working on a better solution for that, to have redundancy both of that phone line from Bogus and also having a cellular input into the station off of the AT&T tower that's located at Gunflint. So what we're seeing is that the station will get better investment because the National Weather Service will maintain it and will improve it, and the county will not have to pay for that phone line anymore. The county will not have to pay for any improvements to it anymore. We, in exchange, will just agree to extend a memorandum of understanding to the National Weather Service saying, yeah, your stuff can be in our building for free, which we've done with other entities that have a public safety concern. So, I believe that is all the relevant information. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much for that explanation. That's very helpful. Are there questions that anyone has for Jay? Seeing or hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution to complete the process abandoning the Gunflint NOAA station?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mills. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion and support.
I'll just say one more thing about the process here. So the reason why there's two letters in your packet for this, one from the sheriff and one as a resolution, is because Sheriff Wirt was the one who signed the papers with the National Weather Service, and it was passed by resolution by the county board. So in order to fully abandon it, we have to have both entities agreeing that we're done. And what I will get in response when I submit these to the National Weather Service is a letter from them acknowledging the abandonment and their acceptance of it. And so then I will put that on a future consent agenda just for you to see.
Great, thank you very much. Any other discussion? Not? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to item 5 at this time, Land Services, and I see that Neva Maxwell and Tim Nelson are both with us this morning. Welcome. And the first item is the Poplar River Ridge plat change, and from the Planning Commission, I have the plat, which is a little larger than what's in our board packet with our little screen, so I'm just going to pass that down so people can see the area.
Very thoughtful. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Poplar River Ridge is a platted community. It's called a common interest community, meaning that all of the plat owners, property owners within that development have a shared interest in the shared utilities of this plat. So this is a little bit of a wordy request. I'm going to try to summarize it a little bit better because it's still a little early after a long weekend. So this development has been developed in stages over time, and we're at kind of the final stage of development. And when these plats are developed in stages, land is set aside as additional real estate, quote unquote, on the earlier versions of the plat. So what this proposal is for land that is set aside as additional real estate to be officially converted into a common interest, which means that the association members can do the fees and whatnot and the caretaking of that land legally in a setup that they each have a responsibility to it. So it's a little different than just being additional real estate. It's just becoming common interest. This land is not going to be developed in any way of having additional units. So this is actually a really simple request. It's just changing the ownership of this additional land to become common interest elements. But it has to go through the platting process to do that. So it feels like a heavy-handed regulatory tool to do a pretty simple ownership change, essentially. So this is the Poplar River Ridge Condo Association is located over by Lutzen Resort, by Lutzen Ski Hill. This specific swath of land is 2 parcels that are essentially a buffer between Highway 61 and the developed communities. So there would be no additional units, no infrastructure, anything like that. The land had been cleared by the previous owners 2022, and our office was working with them to get that into compliance again. It essentially just needs to be seeded and mulched and revegetated. So the condo association purchased this from the previous owners last year, and so that purchase is what has initiated this process to get this process completed. So this is for the preliminary plat. Wayne Henschey, the county surveyor, did review the preliminary plat and provided comments. Mostly they're editorial type comments that plats have to have certain information on them for recording. And we also concurrently noticed the final plat too, just to be efficient with processing times because this is such a simple request, essentially. So the final plat was processed at the same time as the preliminary plat. It's just that our ordinance requires that these come to you in different meetings. So that's why this is only for the preliminary plat right now. And then at the next meeting, I would anticipate to bring you the final plat if there's no issues. The condition of approval is essentially that the county surveyor comments get edited appropriately for recording. So the county recorder's office was noticed. Dusty did not have any comments to say to any of this. So that's as straightforward as I can try to make something that's really quite wordy in the packet.
All right. Are there any questions that any commissioners have for Neva this morning? Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the preliminary plat.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Poplar River Ridge, a condominium, CIC number 10, Third Amendment, preliminary plat.
Thank you so much. That
Support.
was great, and we have support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. The second item for you is the Vlad Messing conditional use permit. This was held at a public hearing for the Planning Commission at the May 13th meeting? 8th, sorry, May 8th meeting. There were no written comments submitted for this conditional use permit, no verbal comments. I hadn't received any issues. Lutzen Township was noticed as a part of this process also, and they did not provide any comments. So it's a conditional use permit for a vacation rental home in the LR2 zone district. It's the Lutzen Incentive Residential District. And one reason you don't see requests like this very often is because in Cook County, the 3 townships, Schroeder, Tofty, and Lutzen, have sub-area plans. And so they each have kind of their own unique little zoning districts in there. And so this specific zone district in Lutzen Township specifically calls out vacation rentals as a conditional use. So as a reminder, conditional uses are uses that in any types of activities that if they weren't regulated as to the numbers or with conditions, they might not be compatible with the zone district, but they are recognized to be essentially compatible if they are regulated and monitored appropriately. So that's what Lutzen Township had decided for this zone district, is that vacation rental homes can be a conditional use in this zone district. The Planning Commission members, 3 of them had done site visits and they had no issues. This is for 1 unit on the property. So 1 vacation rental unit on the property. And there were 4 conditions in the motion to be attached to the approval of this conditional use permit. And they were that the property shall be in compliance essentially with the septic rules and regulations, and that all local, state, and federal regulations must be adhered to, which does include the annual vacation rental license. The 3rd condition was that the fire number and address sign be installed prior to rental so people can find the property. And the 4th was that the CUP is valid for 1 vacation rental unit as identified in the conditional use permit application with no more than 4 occupants. And then it recognizes that an amendment to the conditional use permit shall be required for any expansion or intensification of the use, which would include an increase in bedrooms or dwelling units. And that this motion was recommended for approval unanimously by the Planning Commission.
Thank you so much. Do commissioners have questions for Neva regarding the Vlad Messing conditional use permit?
Madam Chair, I did drive up there just to see this little place that's carved out in the woods. So it's all surrounded by the woods. It's halfway between Turnagain Lane and at the end of the road there. And it seems like it'll be a nice, quiet little place, and hopefully people will respect that too.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion regarding the
Madam Chair, I
resolution.
have a question. So under the conditions, the number 1, the first one is the use conforms to land use or comprehensive plan for the county, and as far as commercial goals are concerned, I think that's absolutely true. As far as our other goals, though, I think there could be some conflict there. Was there much discussion from the Planning Commission about our other goals in the comprehensive plan?
There was not.
I'm just thinking about some of our largest needs in the county and where those fit in our comprehensive plan and providing homes for residents and I see a pretty strong conflict there, and it just surprises me that the commission didn't talk more about that.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Mills, usually what happens is when we get a request specifically out of one of the townships that does have a sub-area plan, we and the Planning Commission kind of defer to the township, since they're the ones that have done that plan. They're the ones that have recommended the zone to the Board of Commissioners, and we adopt it on their behalf. So I think there was probably more limited discussion. If it was in a more general sense or in the unincorporated areas or not a township, there would be more of that discussion. But because it was Lutzen Township, and Lutzen Township stated they had no issues with this, that deference was given to the township.
So deference was given to the township, but the authority still lies with the county.
Yes.
And so as a county representative, I'm trying to think of the county needs the county plan more so than the township. And I want to respect the township, but then I would hope that they would have that authority and responsibility. So if they're going to pass me the ball, I'm going to go down this road, I guess. The second one is the use is compatible with the existing neighborhood. And so I think that is debatable, considering it's a residential neighborhood. It's not a bunch of condos or a bunch of vacation cabins. So in my mind, it is not compatible with the existing neighborhood, so I'm wondering if there is discussion around that.
My recollection is that there was not discussion about that. I know, I, like Commissioner Storley, went out there, and this location is right before you get to that circle of Mink Ranch homes, and so I saw it as being a little bit different. I, too, am obviously concerned about housing and thought of that, but because of the location and it being part of Lutsen, saw that a little bit differently. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Commissioner Mills. Interestingly enough, the fact that we have this specific zone in Lutsen Township itself, and it was recommended by them, it is actually more restrictive and more controlled than the remainder of the county in the unincorporated areas. It is just considered to be a permitted use in the residential zone district, so it's actually more highly regulated in there than it is the rest of the county. And so the very fact that it is reviewed under conditional use permit and there are conditions that are put on it is more highly regulated than anywhere else in the county.
Agreed, though I don't necessarily agree with the rest of the county, right? Regulations, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Neva.
In the packets, in the staff narrative, there is a zoning map included. So to your point of compatibility with the zone district, we do look at the surrounding zone districts. And this area is kind of a matrix, a whole conglomeration of a lot of different zone districts. And I think a part of that finding was connected that this property is immediately adjacent to the resort commercial residential zone district. So when we look at these CUP requests, we look at the zone district that property is in and also the surrounding properties. So I think that was a part of that finding, is that right across the road, a whole resort could get put in. And if a resort was there, which it has a right to exist there, then a vacation, that would have a little bit of a different finding. So just because it's not actually developed yet, we're kind of looking at a little bit of the future planning aspect of those zone districts.
One other thing I can mention is that if you think about this location in relationship to the Gitchigami Trail, this is a perfect place for people that are biking the Gitchigami Trail. It's right down from that new trail that's been built in Lutsen. So if commissioners haven't been to that site, you should be aware of that as well. Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, so I guess for all of these conditions, it kind of comes down to a judgment call, a leaning. In my mind, it's not clear cut, and there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion. So I think based on the questions I presented, where I'm leaning and what my lean is on it, and I 100% understand there's another way to look, and it is legitimate. It's just not where I think our community would want to go. Based on my understanding of the comprehensive plan and just the analysis, I interpreted the analysis another way. Not that it's incorrect, the way that's presented.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Right.
do we not have vacation rentals in residential areas now? I mean, everywhere in this county? Well, nothing in the East End, but I mean, do we not have those already? So this is not out of line. This is the norm here.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we do have them in the east part of the county, Penny's Peak, near Hovland.
Oh, yes, there's that, and then I think our adventurer, Lonnie Dupree, has a couple up
Yeah,
there.
so, just so,
You're right.
Neva.
Madam Chair, I think one thing I wanted to also point out is our land use guide plan was done in 2016. And so time has changed, and so that is one, the tools that we have to work with may not be completely aligned with current conditions. So, and also I just wanted to kind of clarify too, just terminology. So I think Commissioner Mills, you're referring to the staff consideration of findings and facts, which are different than the conditions recommended for approval. So when you cited the land use guide plan, those are recommended condition or findings of fact that are as part of the standards to make a determination on a conditional use permit. How do we make a conclusion whether to approve or deny something? And so that's where I'm sifting through the facts and the plans that we have available to us to see how this request matches up to those standards. And so that my general point is that our land use guide plan it was done before we even had the vacation rental license program. So those planning documents getting updated over time can help with having more accurate facts to work with.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to dovetail into that comment there, I have had discussions with the county administrator, and because of the fact that our comprehensive land use plan was completed in 2016, it is projected to last until 2030, and that there have been, in every comp plan that we've basically done, we've surpassed our expectations, or we've gone beyond population, or we've changed in the terms and patterns of our growth, that we are actually looking to update that or go through a process in 2025, and including those funds in the budget to look at our comprehensive plan. And the way that we'd had it structured, it is right now, it is set as we have a comprehensive land use guide plan, and then we have transportation plan, we have a housing plan, we have different types of plans, but I am going to be making a pitch to the board at some time in the future here to make it a full comprehensive plan, that they're all together, so that it's not just a hub and spoke kind of thing, but that all of them relate to each of the other plans as appropriate. And so we'll be having, no doubt, much more of a serious discussion looking forward from that point, if that is approved. And I think it's appropriate that we take a look at that plan and update it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, the reason I was saying the things I was saying is because I know that when we make a decision as a county board, I need to have reasons and something to relate to if in fact we went to a court. And so I wanted to be clear on why I was going down the road I was, and how I don't think it fits within all of the plan, even if it is outdated. And with an updated plan, I think it'll fit less. I don't think there's been, I could be wrong, I don't think there's been an outpouring of public support for short-term rentals. I know that many people are doing it, and many people's livelihoods depend on it, whether it's cleaning or upkeep or painting or even the real estate industry. I get it, but I don't know that we can have that both ways as far as the plan is old and we're going to reference it. It's kind of like I'm trying to do my best to interpret the plan as well as the intentions and needs of the community and meet that. Not that you're not doing that, but just I'm doing it differently, apparently.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the interesting components that we had encountered when we went through our review of the whole vacation rental ordinance back in 2022, the assessors performed a study for this, and I have asked for this to be done again, is in terms of because there was always this concern about the explosion or vast increase of vacation rentals, and we asked them to do, and the county assessor did this for us, as in terms of the number of increases of vacation rentals versus increases in second homes and such. And at that time, we had found during that period that there was actually a net loss of vacation rentals and an increase, because yes, people are purchasing properties and making vacation rentals, but people are also buying vacation rentals and making them second homes or permanent homes. And so it's a dynamic field. We're currently having an update to that study being done right now, so that we'll have that information to be able to discuss that, what the impacts have been more recently. But during that time that we made the update, we actually lost vacation rentals and did not increase them, even though we have new ones starting.
Thank you.
Um,
Commissioner White?
Mr. Nelson, how many vacation rentals do we have in this county? My recollection from some meeting was that we have many more vacation rental units in this county than, say, Lake County or Two Harbors. So is that accurate, do you know the number of vacation rental homes that we have in this county? More or less.
Yeah.
I mean,
Madam Chair, Commissioner White, coincidentally, we did, and we do kind of have this ongoing discussion with our vacation rental administrator, Andrew Beavers. He does those numbers for us. He's the one that evaluates them. When we started in 2022, when we did the process, we had 358 at that point, which, yes, is a dramatic amount more than what Lake County or Two Harbors has. In 2023, that had subsided to 336. When we brought Andrew on as the vacation rental administrator / enforcement officer, we wanted to make sure that we're dealing with accurate numbers and that he's able to go out and capture those operations that may be renting and haven't applied for a license for. So at this point in time, of those numbers, of licenses that have been issued, those pending, and we have a cluster of those that may be suspect as to whether they're renting or not. That brings that total up to about 360, give or take some. So, yes, we do have actually a large number of vacation rentals, and those are all historic, and they were considered up until the year 2000 or 2020, were all considered permitted uses without any regulation whatsoever, without any permits or licensing from the county. So, one of the most the biggest changes that we made in 2022 when we adopted the revision to our licensing program is we added the county level septic inspections, because that was some of the largest concern out there, was that people are overusing the houses and such because they're predominantly all in residential areas and abusing the septic systems. And so we took on that role from the Minnesota Department of Health, and so we on our local level are monitoring and enforcing the septics for all of the vacation rentals. Plus, one of the elements that we're needing to really delineate out and deal with slightly in a different manner are what is called the resort-based vacation rentals. So if you have Caribou Highlands or you have Bluefin Bay, you have particular units that are inside that. It's a resort, so it's the use, everything. It's a commercial area. It's all regarded as resort. But because they're managed independently or through an agency instead of the front desk, we actually consider them to be vacation rentals when actually they're really a part of the resort. Their septics are collective with the resorts and everything like that. So we're looking at trying to delineate out that number and deal with those a little bit more specifically than just the home-based vacation rentals.
Commissioner White?
So to that end, if in this county we want housing for families, individuals, then we should not have any vacation rentals. I'm not suggesting that, but if that's out, we should, no, this is not what government should do at all. But we have approved, and as Mr. Nelson said, many of them, I believe it would be, well, there are some that are already inside, like Caribou Highlands and different places, so that raises the numbers up, so. Yeah, I understand, we need housing, but not on the back of one property owner at a time.
Commissioner Storley?
Thank you. Well, the towns of Lutz and Tofte and Schroeder, I believe, developed their town plans like in 2011, 12, 13.
Yeah.
And it's time to review those too, because the development is happening. I mean, as you see with this little place. And so maybe we can all work together on that and bring some updating, whether it's going to be good for one area or the other, we'll find out. But I think it needs to be, as you said, updating, so we're a little more current with the whole county, too.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. So there are two structures going to be built on this property, correct? So I had the same concerns at first about the vacation rental, as I realize that can take away year-round housing for people. But the size of this project was encouraging to me, that it is a small cabin. It's not a $500,000 vacation home that nobody else can ever afford. And I understand with the price of land and the price of construction, and it, to enable a young family to purchase or build, you might have to have a side income. And I was encouraged that this piece of property, the small size of the project, seems more acceptable to me as far as fitting the long-term use of this area. And if it doesn't, if for some reason it ceases to become a vacation rental, it still can be used for housing at a reasonable cost, I would think, but I don't know. But I don't know if that can factor into my decision, but it is where I went when I read this board packet. So I thought I'd just share that.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions?
Oh, yeah, so the site conditions, sorry, Madam Chair. Development of a cabin and a guest cabin yurt. The vacation rental is proposed for the cabin to accommodate 4 guests, and the yurt is for,
The property owner.
to live there. Yeah.
Other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Vlad Messing's conditional use permit on the Mink Ranch Road.
Thank you. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Thank you, Commissioner White. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll move on to item 6, Attorney Hicken.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So item 6 has 2 different parts for your approval. The first is a grant issued by LCCMR, which is a state DNR related entity, for $200,000. So the grant agreement actually has 3 parties: the state of Minnesota, Cook County as the fiscal agent, and Superior Cycling Association as the grantee. So we are not the applicant for this grant of $200,000 to cover Phase 2 of the Pincushion mountain bike trail rehabilitation. We're not the grantee, but we did agree to be the fiscal agent, which was a requirement for Superior Cycling Association to obtain the grant. So this relates to the same project the board addressed at its May 14th regular meeting. The second part is for the contractor agreement, which is supported by the funding in that grant in Part 1. At its last regular meeting, the board approved awarding the bid for Phase 2 of the Pincushion project to Dirt Candy Designs LLC. They were the sole bidder, and they also were awarded the bid for Phase 1. So a couple things to note. You'll see that the grant agreement funds $200,000 toward the project, but the contract agreement is capped at $160,000. The reason it's at $160,000 is because that's the contractor's estimate of the expense of building that trail at a daily rate that was included in their bid. I've also asked in item 3, I forgot that there are 3 items, I added that one, that the board authorized Tim Nelson to do a change order as necessary for up to $5,000 at a pop, if it's legitimately required to complete the project, if the estimate of the work it takes to complete the project is not accurate. That those change orders under the authority I've requested from the board can go up to but not exceed $175,000. The reason for that is because we would want to know if the project exceeds that dollar amount, because at that point, the county would be required to obtain from the contractor payment and performance bonds, which significantly changes the nature of their financial obligation. And the remaining uncommitted funds in that grant agreement, as I understand it, are to go towards materials. And I'm not sure what else SCA believes that the representative that has been in contact with Brady and I, who's the president of SCA, and in full disclosure, my husband, Paul Nordland, right? He seems to think that the entire project could take up that $200,000, but at any rate, it's not anticipated to impact the county's financially. There are administrative costs, obviously, to the auditor's office, doing the fiscal management part. This board already agreed to commit those resources, certainly to my own time in drafting these agreements. And I've asked Brady to look into whether those administrative costs can be charged back to the grant funds also, if the county can recoup.
I don't have an answer yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's my summary, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments for Attorney Hicken? So actually, I have 3 items. We have the fiscal agent piece for the county, the bid for Phase 2, and then Tim Nelson being the person designated to create change orders.
Yeah, I'll just, in case it's a question in anybody's mind, so SCA plans to buy the materials, for bridges and things like that, the walkways, and that kind of stuff. With the, 25 to 40,000, whatever's, they're going to balance the two, materials versus contract costs.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to accept the draft agreements and authorize County Board Chair to execute the final agreements in substantially the same form as attached in our packet upon final approval of the county attorney for both, or for all three, all three conditions, the work change order, the Phase 2, as well as the agreement with the state grant. What is that? Whatever that acronym is. ENRTF.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there support? Support. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you. So my second agenda item relates to bylaws changes, maybe the final bylaws changes for the 2024 version of the board bylaws, but that's up to you. So what I did is, I wasn't present at the April 23rd meeting of the board, but I did go back and listen as Madam Chair requested that I do. And I made recommended changes based on that discussion to sections 8C and 8I. The 8C is record keeping, and that, I think I added 1 or 2 words just to clarify that the administrator is to be sent minutes only from the Cook County committees that the commissioners participate in. So we're not talking about the outside committees or boards that that the commissioners partake in, but those created and managed by the county. Per diems, I understand the conversation kind of went back and forth, and we've talked about this quite a bit, and the commissioners still wish to talk about this. I guess my recommendation on per diems is that for the purposes of the 2024 bylaws, we just commit to having per diems and travel reimbursements to citizen members. Leave that up to the department heads for the departments that manage those committees. And then put it on a committee of the whole agenda, decide whether you wish to create a policy that would require all committees to be consistent one way or the other. And that would allow for the full discussion, and maybe we make those changes, propose those changes in 2025. The third item is I wished to clarify some language in section 10D. So this is my own proposal and not coming from any commissioner requests, because this section of the bylaws in the previous form seemed to imply or assume that a complaint that a commissioner received about county business or a county staff member would wind up with the county administrator and the staff member, so that they could attempt to resolve, and then they would resolve it, communicate back to the complainant, and then let the commissioner know how they resolved it. But there was no interim step where the commissioner actually shares that complaint with the department head or staff member. So my proposal is to clarify in that first paragraph of section 10D that when the commissioner receives a complaint from a citizen about county business or county staff, they, as soon as possible, share that with the department head responsible for that person or procedure and with the county administrator, because that aligns with the customer service value that's kind of in that first sentence of the paragraph, and allows for a more immediate response and reaction. This also includes data requests, by the way. So when a commissioner is asked, can I have the data related to the number of calls on this subject, or the number of dollars issued by the county for the last 5 years for this purpose, rather than the commissioner being in charge of fulfilling that request, it should be directed to the county administrator and the department head responsible for that data. That's consistent with Chapter 13 Government Data Practices Act and with our data practices policies. And just, I also wanted to clarify, this is in the agenda item, Commissioner Johnson had some questions about archiving in YouTube, archiving the streams. The bylaws address only that if a stream, a recording on YouTube is created of a meeting, that it be archived. It does not specify for how long it be archived. And that is the item that Mr. Watkins brought to the board earlier this year, and that commissioners wish to explore the options, talk to other counties about how long they archive. I've left the duration of how long it's archived out of the bylaws and simply said that will archive them. If you wish to include the duration in the bylaws, then we'll need to get that discussion back in front of the board for a decision. Final comment, the bylaws should be a living document, something that we regularly review and suggest changes to. I would say it's okay for us to stop here for 2024 and readdress it in 2025. And I would say I'm also not surprised at how much time we spent on this and how many changes and discussions we had in 2024, because this was our first really review of the bylaws since they had been created. And, you know, perhaps as the next time around, we'll have less to talk about, less to change, but I'm really satisfied with how thoroughly the bylaws have been reviewed, and thank you for discussing it and taking it seriously. So.
I can say I really appreciate all the input and discussion and time we spent on this. And it's really interesting to talk to other counties because some have a handbook and some don't. And this will be something that we can talk about and ask questions about at our AMC district meeting later this week. But I really like the idea of the policy related to per diems and also information related to tracking complaints regarding employees or situations or whatever. Having look at that in a different way. I think a policy for our per diems is something we could look at separately. It doesn't have to be included in our bylaws. It seems, in fact, to me, kind of awkward, like it's out of place being in our bylaws. And then I think in terms of records retention, with the information that Rowan brought to us in the question earlier, that likely would also be a separate policy that we could entertain in 2025. Other comments or questions? Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, thank you for bringing those two items in particular up. And first of all, thank you, Attorney Hicken, for your work on this and the time and attention you've spent in answering our questions and kind of going through things and giving it the run through. But those two items in particular, I think, are great to have separate policies for. They're much larger discussions that I'm not ready to make huge decisions on, and I like the language in the bylaws. It's not the end of this discussion by any means, but I think we can bookmark it as such in our quote-unquote final bylaws. But having much longer discussions, I think, both about the retention and per diems. I guess it deserves more discussion. But I was going to say I would much rather us just have the blanket per diem policy, but we're not ready for that, and it's developing still. So.
Other commissioners, questions or comments?
Other than thank you for working through this and working together, and I think we can be satisfied for what we have right now and then work on something in the future, like in 2025.
So I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make motion to accept the changes to our Commissioner Rules of Operation, quote-unquote, bylaws as our final draft there.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll take a little minute to talk about commissioner updates. Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I attended the hospital board meeting on Thursday as the county representative, and it was an interesting meeting. They discussed their audit report, and and also a cost report about hospitals, which I found fascinating. A lot of information shared there. But I did discuss during the commissioner portion of the meeting that I feel that my presence there is kind of ineffective. And there's, could be a possibly better way to share information would be that a hospital board member attend the Public Health and Human Services Advisory Committee where they discuss health issues of the county. It just seems like a clearer line of sharing information, and the information that I received, I cannot repeat back because there's lots of jargon that I don't know, but I hear it in the Public Health and Human Services meeting, so I know other people understand it. And it just seems to me to be a more efficient way to get that information out into the public, is getting the people who know it together in the same room. So I want to let you know that I did reach out to Allison and Frank as chair of that committee. And because the hospital board seemed kind of unaware of that group, and it could be just turnover. So they were interested in exploring that option, so I have reached out and asked that an invitation in how to become a service provider on that board can be made to the hospital board. So that's all I have to report on for this week.
Wonder if that would be a topic we might want to consider at a committee of the whole. This specifically with Public Health and Human Services, but also the process for when all of us are on many committees, we find that maybe there isn't a fit or there's an idea of doing something differently, that we have an opportunity to discuss that with everybody. Is that something you think would be valuable?
Well, I don't guess. I find it on a few of the committees that I'm on that I think part of it is just trying to learn what's going on, so, but also wondering if we are being most efficient with our time and our efforts. Yeah, if the rest of the board feels like they also might have that in some of the committees they serve, there could be a way to maybe better use of our time.
Commissioner White.
And I would like to agree with you because I'm on the Emergency Communications Board, ECB. And to report about what I attended using what is that?
Webinar?
Yes, it wasn't functioning well. And so that particular group really knows what they're talking about, but it's acronyms. And I'm trying to learn this. So realizing that there were a lot of interesting items that were discussed, I picked that up. I cannot relate that information that I think is important for the community, for the commissioners to know. So you see, sitting out there is Rowan Watkins, who can answer the questions. And so I believe for him to be able to, for that department to be able to interpret and report on what's going on is more valuable than me telling you about the armor up there and the net. I will understand it at some point, but I cannot even relate it well enough to make anyone else understand it. And if someone were to ask me a question, well, I couldn't even make up an answer for you. So I agree that there might be a better use of, not for my time, but for the community and for all of us to understand what is going on. And this is something that's vital to the health of our community, the Cook County community.
So we are fortunate to have Rowan right here to respond maybe to that question that you have.
Yeah,
It
good
was
morning,
an early
everyone.
morning email to Rowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so as Commissioner White said, she had some questions on some items that were covered at the Emergency Communications Board that she'd like to provide a little extra context around. And so the first one was the Motorola upgrade for the Armor system. The Armor system is a statewide radio system that all of our public safety services use. And the infrastructure is upgraded every so often. It's a software upgrade that happens to the system every so often. And this is coordinated through Motorola and MnDOT, who does a lot of the management of the service. The impact to our local users is really measured in seconds or minutes of downtime. And the importance of why that's covered at those meetings is so that that information gets disseminated to the right people, and so that they know, dispatch knows they're going to lose a little bit of connectivity for a few seconds or a few minutes on this day at this time. But it's what allows the Motorola system to stay secure and increase the features that it has every so often. And so again, that's just a coordination between MnDOT and Motorola that end users get brought into the loop on. The next one Commissioner White had was council upgrades, and these are our radio councils in dispatch, and again, part of a larger agreement with the state. We are ensured that our PCs that are utilized for the radio council function in dispatch, how our dispatchers talk on the radio, get upgraded every so often. They're rolling out the schedule for that, everyone statewide. Ours, we were actually the first one to be done in the state, and we're done. So we're already set there. Next one was FirstNet Towers, and this was a conversation related to a set amount of money. It's in the billions. I don't have the number right off. I looked for it this morning, couldn't find it, but there's several $1 billion nationwide being allocated for reinvestment in the FirstNet system. This is a nationwide program. FirstNet, as you know, is a subset of AT&T that provides priority and preemption and pretty attractive pricing for first responder personnel to have a smartphone and a plan. And so we've seen the benefits of that with FirstNet sites being built out in Cook County in areas where they otherwise probably wouldn't. It might not have made financial sense for that company to do that, but because of the role that public safety has in that, where FirstNet needs to accommodate public safety, that was part of the deal that they took on when they took the spectrum and the funding from the feds to build out the system. And so this is a continuation of that. And so we don't have the locations yet for Minnesota or even specifically Cook County, but we believe that it'll be a combination of both new towers, new services, and then a reinvestment in infrastructure, replacing fiber and backhaul where needed. And so those are the main things that they're prioritizing. But we don't have details exactly where that'll look. And then the last one was some surveys around next-gen 911 for, and cybersecurity for PSAPs. And these surveys are really geared towards finding commonality amongst the counties and dispatch centers throughout the state so that the state can allocate funding to projects that would benefit the most people in bringing up their level of readiness to next-gen 911, as well as improving their position from a cybersecurity standpoint. And so this is a second round of this. The Northeast is actually ahead of the other regions when it comes to next-gen 911, especially with our GIS information. And this is the second round of cybersecurity assessments that Cook County did take part in the first one, and did very well and made some minor improvements, but we'll participate in the next one as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Rowan, for being here this morning. Your department used to give quarterly updates to the full board.
Annually, I believe, and then the
I-
Public Safety Communications Committee would give updates after their quarterly meetings.
That's what,
Yes.
okay, so I just know it. And that was the kind of information, talking about information sharing and having it filter through a commissioner. I kind of liked hearing the department head talk about, I wrote down PSAPs again, because I know I've written it down before and can't remember what that is.
Apologies,
But-
Public Safety Answering Point, where 911 phones ring when you call.
But I appreciate, as a commissioner, hearing that kind of information, and I think we should have a schedule for back to annual. The other one, I don't know. But I think that's talking about how we share information and what is important for all of us to get regular updates on. I find this valuable, so thank you for emailing him.
I couldn't even remember WebEx, so. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rowan, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner White, other meetings?
Yes, there was one that I fully understood that had to do with regular people and the health of our community, and it was the Arrowhead Health, Arrowhead, wait, another page, SHIP, and there was a presenter. This was for the active living, and the presenter was Maria Wardoku, and she is part of a active living and design company, but talking about communities at large that she's working with, designing being very aware of their routes that are being put together, their sidewalks, their highway, the crossing points on roads and streets, and then trying to encourage active movement, getting away from vehicles. And I believe that from what she was saying, that Cook County we're on top of the wave, we're going in. But the one thing that she didn't address, and we just touched on it, is that the demographics of Cook County is older than, we're aging, we have an aging population. So the idea of walking everywhere is a great idea till you get to a certain point in one's ability, when you need a cane or you need, the idea of carrying 20 pounds of groceries to your car 5 blocks away because you have to park somewhere else or you live, is not real sensible here. But I did feel really good that Cook County, and this was Christina Mattson was part of this too, that we are doing a really good job, thinking about helping create opportunities for our citizens to be active. That was it. Besides, the other one that I did was the Council on Aging, and they are, of course, the hub are continuing to provide meals, and they are working on the Otto Bremer grant at this moment in time to get that in. So it's just a very energetic, productive board. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner White. On the hub, I had an opportunity to talk with somebody who is concerned about the sustainability of the hub because it's so grant dependent and grants are becoming more competitive. There isn't always a lot of support for that grant dependency. Like if you keep applying to the same agency over and over for that grant, that's, they notice that too. And so I'm not super familiar with the history of the organization with the Council on Aging and the hub. But it sounds like at one point it was straight up ran by the county. And then went away from that. And now I'm getting the impression that there may be enough challenges. We give them a substantial grant every year through the Public Health and Human Services grant. And it might be worth looking at, or at least talking about, its sustainability and viability in the future, because it's so dependent on volunteers, and that can also be, for the importance of that organization, that can be a really touchy, weak link, for that matter, if all of a sudden there's no volunteers and there's so much that goes on down there. I know there's paid employees as well, and we need them, right?
Two paid employees.
We need them. It's just, I think it might be a good idea to try to get ahead of any issues if we talk more about what their needs are, what they see going forward, and where we want to invest in our community as we're talking about the aging well community and all that too. So I hear you on the energy, because they're full of passion and commitment, and, but it's, there are limitations too to what two people can do, right? Or the board of volunteers there, so thank you for being there, and, yeah, I'd like to put it on a committee of the whole discussion at some point. I don't know that there's a emergency there, but again, it's kind of on my mind, so.
And there will, at some point, it seems to happen in organizations where, if not the energy doesn't dissipate, or the importance doesn't dissipate, but the volunteers that have the ability or time to continue, they go away. And then the organization stumbles and might leave entirely. So yes, I agree, I would like to have a discussion, committee of the whole, but if we do that, when we do that, I believe we should have some or all of their board members at the table with us.
Absolutely, that would be great.
All right, good discussion. I've got that in our notes for the committee of the whole. Commissioner Mills, other committees you've attended?
I don't think I have anything to report today.
Commissioner Storley?
Thank you. The Gitchigami Trail Committee is now at a point where we need to work with MnDOT. If you notice, when you go by, the trail ends right at the driveway of Arrowhead. And in order for bicyclists to safely continue on, something has to be notifying the public drivers that there could be possibly bicyclists ahead. So however they come up with, because you're on a curve and you get on the road and you have cars coming at you, or you go down in this little deep ravine and then come up to the next little dirt road. So we, hopefully by our next meeting in June, we'll have conversations with MnDOT how to safely get people around that bend until we get it all the way to the other part of the downtown Lutzen. So, yeah, that's all.
All right. Commissioner Johnson?
Ask a question about that. When are they going to get that bridge on that new portion so that we can use that bike trail?
Well, there's two bridges, actually. And the footings for that were not available last fall.
Okay.
That's why they had a hold on it. But it's going to come in June. They have the fittings. Should get it done. It's like a little platform type thing. Yeah, so it's
Well, thank
gonna
you, because
happen.
I keep waiting to
I know.
ride that part of the trail.
Good, good.
Wondering, how come they haven't gotten that bridge in yet? So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we, a number of us were at the Ojibwe translation river crossing unveiling last week, and it's really wonderful to note that we have 7 river crossings that now have signs that have changed, and that discussion ensued after 1854 treaty signs went up, and MnDOT placed those. So really a wonderful collaboration with Grand Portage and MnDOT and our Highway Department. We had our HRA meeting, and Commissioner Johnson was there as well. And the big news is, and it is on our list of upcoming meetings to note, that on June 14th, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony at Superior View, which used to be Switchback Village, but now called Superior View, so we want to make sure that the public is aware of that. And I just want to thank Attorney Hicken and our HR Director, Allison Plummer, for arranging training for the Cook County Board of Commissioners. We had that training last Tuesday. It was wonderful. And my hope is that we get to finish the training. We got about halfway through it, that we can look at that opportunity for next fall sometime. Anything commissioners would like to share, or thoughts or ideas regarding that training?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was great and important. I would love if we could do something like that. I mean, annually seems like too little, but it's better than what we have been doing. but just that kind of communication. And, you know, for some of the things, it's really important for board development for it to not be, you know, quote unquote public, but I think for a lot of it, it would be good to have, for us to all be, you know, discussing with public, and I think that sort of thing is maybe more of what the original intent of committee of the whole was, and, you know, kind of having that dialogue rather than, you know, presentations, but I think we need both. But continuation, I think, would be fine too with the Roberts Rules of Order and talking about that, or just any other types of just leadership training. So,
All right.
thank you.
Commissioner White.
And I believe that the conversations supports that the committee of the whole is an opportunity for all, is a scheduled opportunity for us to have in-depth conversations about items, and I think that's really, really needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that idea of, you know, we need training, just like we get from AMC, but we can bring that training here. We need our dialogue at Committee of the Whole. All of these opportunities just help us to function and work better as a board. So I appreciate that very much. One of the things that I've been very busy with is our wildfire readiness. As stated at our last meeting, we had a presentation at the Hovland Town Hall, and we've had Birch Grove earlier this month, and then we did a presentation through Cook County Higher Education, which was about wildfire readiness, and we videotaped it. We're getting so many requests from lake associations, road associations, town halls, that we did videotape that, and we'll be able to direct people to that. And I think that's going to be very valuable, particularly for lake association meetings, when they realized it was an hour-and-a-half long presentation. And they meet annually as a lake association. They felt that took up too much time. So we'll be able to have commissioners go to lake associations, give kind of an update, but this type of specific training will be something that will be available to them through video or through very large groups. The Cook County Coalition of Lake Associations, along with the Mid-Trail Poplar Mid-Trail Property Owners Association, are going to have a very large event, Mid-Trail. There'll probably be 100 to 120 people. So that'll be one larger event that will be in person, but most of them, the videos will be available. And I think that'll be very helpful to our community. Cook County Local Energy Project met last week. We had a chance to talk about the benefits of working with Healthy Housing and the HRA to be able to install triple pane windows in some properties here in the county that were in dire need of energy improvements. And we don't have enough money to go around, but we're going to continue to look for grants. But windows is the way that most of the initial applicants have chosen to try to make their homes or properties more energy efficient. We have a Firewise meeting coming up this Thursday. I'll be unable to attend, but did write up a summary to share with them, and that's primarily about the wildfire readiness presentations. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the orchard. We did have Carolyn Dry with us earlier today to give an update from her perspective at public comment. I think what I'll do is share with Jana the notes from that meeting, and she can just send them out so that all commissioners have the notes. But we basically talked about a history of the orchard, and thank Diane Booth from back in 2016 when she originally accepted that donation of 100 apple trees from Carolyn. We had a poster that we looked at from 2017 where Ray Block and Carolyn and Diane had made a presentation as part of the Cook County Community Orchard Community Impact Project, and that was very nicely done. And then we talked about all the different tasks that need to be done at the orchard, what the original purpose was, which was actually in that poster that they created through extension. and set up just roles, tasks, and plans to take a look at over the next few months. So I just appreciated the collaboration of a lot of different groups, dedication, and the commitment that people are making towards the orchard, and it really supports education for youth, for adults in our community, and provides locally produced, healthy and nutritious foods for our community as well. So I believe the last item I have is related to the Airport Commission, and you may have seen in a original agenda that was posted for this meeting that there was something called entitlements that was on there to discuss. And originally, we thought that a response to a request for entitlements to be returned to Carleton County was something that would require board action. And Auditor Powers and a representative from RS&H, which does a lot of airport construction, highway maintenance. They even work with NASA. They're really fabulous engineers for large infrastructure. We had an opportunity to meet, and there was a special meeting of the Cook County Airport Advisory Commission on Friday morning at 7:30, and they wrote the response. The request did not come directly to the county board. It came to the Airport Commission from their airport manager. So I just wanted to note that and explain why that change was made. And that would be it for my updates. We have a lengthy list of meetings in May and also in the first half of June. We have our sales tax comparison through March. We're down a little bit, but we know that the weather and lack of snow and cold had a lot to do with that, so we'll continue to monitor that. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Storley. Is there support? Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Have a great day.